I do want to turn it over to Carl
Okay.
to do our to do our manufacturer spotlight for today. We bring on most, if not all, the manufacturers of heat pump water heaters to the group just to talk about new products, and we're very excited about Embertec and their new split system. So Carl, I'll turn it over to you, and I can drive your slides, or you can take control at the top of the screen. Either way.
Yeah, I'll take control if I can figure it out. But oh yeah, there it is. I got it. Okay. Hey everybody. I know most of you. I've been lurking around quite a while. I've been on the working groups with Paul and ICF and the other Energy Star groups. This is my first time or second time with the builder community group. I was on previously, but got bumped. But I'm back. So here we are. So I'm just going to dive in. We don't have a lot of time, and I just want to save a little time for questions if you have any. So I'm Carl. I started out with Lockheed Martin years ago in the energy efficiency business. And, that's where I got to know Paul, actually. Did a lot of promotions with Sears and programs with NYSERDA and Mass Save and Efficiency Vermont, Ameren, Missouri. I used to design and implement programs. And about 12 years ago, this company, Embertec, scooped me up. And now we're an Australian company. And, we're not just kind of a fly-by-night company that just said, hey, let's do a water heater too. We are an R&D company, first and foremost, in Australia. And we actually invented technologies that are used in utility programs, mostly based around plug load. But we have shifted. In Australia, we have a few different arms. So we have Embertec as our umbrella company, and we have Embertec USA for North America. But we also have a company called Accredited Power in Australia. And there we're very different. We're like an energy service provider. We do kind of like a soup to nuts type offering, kind of like I guess a Clear Result or a TRC or a Franklin Energy or even an ICF would. We acquire homes. We do energy audits. We do full installations of solar and wind and car chargers, appliances, smart plugs, obviously, and to the point of this presentation, heat pump water heaters. So just building on that Australian experience, we've been installing heat pump water heaters for 5 years. It doesn't sound like a long time, but we're installing thousands a month. So, sometimes it's 1,000 a week, sometimes it's 300 a week. It just ebbs and flows depending on the business stream and how busy we are. It's a very unique program in Australia where they do kind of a residential trade and cap. So consumers get energy certificates and they turn them in for energy upgrades in their home. It's a great way to use incentives funded by the government. But since we've been doing this, 2 years ago, we designed our own heat pump water heater. We figured we're building so many, let's work with our factory and have our own design. And this is a simple install that happens in Australia. Believe it or not, they leave their water supply outside. It blows my mind, but this is what a heat pump water heater install looks like in Australia 90% of the time. They use a unitary system as well, and we have a unitary system as well, or integrated tower as they now call it. But this is a typical install in Australia. Very fast, very easy, and you can see why we can do so many a month. And that brings me to our currently available heat pump water heater, which is a split system. There's not a lot on the market. I know we have a partner here. I don't know if he's on the call now, but there's Sanco with the Eco 2. I think Nile has a split system. But split systems are actually prevalent in the UK and Australia and New Zealand. It's probably the go-to, and even in Asia, it's really the premier models are split systems. And there's towers as well, but you'll see split systems just about everywhere in Europe. Our current model is we have a 42 gallon and a 75 gallon. These are not hybrid heat pump water heaters. These are straight heat pump water heaters. There's no booster element in these two models. And these are what we call our California model or our warm climate model. The basics are the UEF is 2.7, which exceeds the Energy Star 2.2. We have an incredible COP, and I'd love to talk to you about COP offline some other time. But our COP is incredibly high. Our first hour rating exceeds Energy Star. All of our models will have CTA 2045 ports. And to you builders on the phone, unless you're building in California, it won't mean anything to you. But to those of you who are familiar with the California market, that is a must-have. and especially in the Northwest as well. NIA requires CTA 2045 ports, and that allows for a utility to put any kind of module they want in your unit. They could slap a radio, a Bluetooth, a Wi-Fi, whatever communication device they want to facilitate demand response. And with that, alongside that, we have Wi-Fi built in with our units, pretty much like all the other manufacturers. So there's a user's app, so they could set vacation mode, time of use mode. They can see how much hot water they have remaining and all that cool stuff. And if I'm talking fast, I apologize. I just realized that I'm probably going to run out of time. So we will be we're almost JA13 compliant. We will be NIA approved. We meet NIA Tier 4 currently. We just have to go through. We're working with Ben and Sam Larson. Those guys are great. What a support to the community. We're working on that with them. Right now, we have R134A in our refrigerant lines, and the refrigerant lines run through the water. We don't run water, run through the wall. We don't run water through the wall. We will convert to 513A. That's going to be a California kind of prerequisite. They're going to get rid of R134A in California. And it's a better global warming potential score of like 650. It's quite a bit lower. And just like all the other heat pump water heaters that we all deal with, we have a 10-year warranty. We superheat the water. We include a mixing valve. I guess the other two unique things about these two models is they're 120 volt plug and play. So you literally run on a shared circuit. So you'd run a GFI outlet outside, and you can plug it in, and you're off to the races. And we also have a quick seal swift connect connection for the refrigerant lines. In most scenarios, you won't need an HVAC tech. You'll just be able to snap in the lines and twist, and they're locked in. If you have to go beyond what our line set is, then obviously you'll need an HVAC tech on hand to extend those lines and properly refill the system. This is just the spec sheet. The one thing I did want to mention on my slide previously, I do have an error. The UEF is actually quite a bit higher for the 75 gallon. Our UEF is 4.2, which that's worth noting because on the previous slide, I think I said it was 3.5. Next slide. We are coming out with a cold climate version. There's a couple of reasons why we don't have that yet. And one is that right now we're installing a bunch of models in California for a few utilities, and we're verifying the tank width and the tank height on this smaller model. What we're trying to do is increase that to possibly 50 gallons. We just think it's going to be better for the customer overall if it fits properly. Our tanks are only 18.5 inches wide right now. So if we can go taller and get some more gallons, we will. And if once we determine that in this next couple of weeks, that will trigger our testing for the 240 volt. We'll change this tank size, and then we'll submit both our 75 gallon and hopefully 50 gallon to Energy Star and UL for testing. We expect that is going to be about May or June that will be production ready for our cold climate model. It'll be a 240 volt system. We're going to use lighter elements, an upper and a lower, so we can keep it at a 15 amp system. So we are finding that this is a good fit for a lot of mobile homes or ADUs that maybe you don't want to, Clayton Holmes mentioned earlier that it just makes sense to try and keep that amperage down if you can, especially if you're going to be at a bunch of trailers in a mobile home park. It's very helpful if you can do it. All the same features. It's going to be JA13. It's going to have all the compliance for NIA in California. And this one will automatically have 513A. We won't wait to deploy it in that unit. And a lot of what Elliot was saying was really what we found in Australia. It's the technology is sound. It's an old technology. It's been around forever. It's not very complicated, and it runs well. We rarely have an install, if any installs, for failed product. It's typically an installation issue. Just like Elliot said, sometimes plumbers will rush in your department. Sometimes it happens in the field with us too, because we're about volume running these programs when we're out there doing the vertical work in Australia. And sometimes they'll over tighten water lines or not tighten them enough. And that's usually what our callback is. So for us, we hired a master plumber that we have on staff. We're probably going to add another one. So any job size, any job that's of significance, like a large park retrofit or a multifamily retrofit, we will have our plumber on staff to train the people. Aside from that, there's web training available. We'll have our training uploaded to eSmack, of course, got to have that. And so our plumbers will also be available during working hours for any hotline calls. So if there's a technician out in the field that's struggling or has a question, they can call our master plumber during regular labor hours. And size does matter. We found that there's just a lack of small, skinny tanks out there. So we are trying to make them as narrow as possible to have enough quality water, hot water for people. But we're finding that in places where noise is a concern or venting is an issue, retrofitting mobile homes or retrofitting multifamily, or sometimes a traditional heat pump water heater doesn't fit very well. We're a good alternative to those locations. And we've all seen this little NIA study that came out where they said 29% of the installs in the study that they did were really kind of a standard install, really simple. But some of them, the rest, they had some kind of feat of venting or drainage or some kind of issue that extended time and labor. And, that all adds expense. So if you can look at the situation and realize, geez, this is going to be difficult or it's going to make the customer uncomfortable, maybe we should switch to a split system to alleviate those issues up front. Then we don't have to worry about these incredible feats of engineering to get venting down right or to get the drainage proper. And that goes for multifamily as well. There was a great presentation. I think it was by the Stephen Winter Group when I was in Saratoga, and they showed a Manhattan basement that had 6 beautiful heat pump water heaters, but they were hybrid heat pump water heaters, and it made the basement so cold that they had to add space heaters to make them work. So in cases like that, it's a little too late. They put them in. What are you going to do? But in cases like that, it really helps to think ahead and possibly use split systems in multifamily, where you're going to have multiple units all in one space, and they scavenge all that fresh, clean air with the heat energy in it. It just helps to just put water tanks in and the condensers outside. Another advantage we found in Australia is they call them tradies in Australia. The plumbers are called tradies and the electricians are called sparkies. And what they found is between our tower system and our split system, they preferred the split system just because moving the towers around was not fun. It was, they're looking at 300 plus pounds out of a truck where they need a lift gate. Where with our product, one plumber could actually handle it. The tank's about 130 pounds. The condenser is about 60 pounds. Easily to handle separately, a little more tricky at times to carry when it's 300 plus pounds. And that's it. Split systems, it's not a new technology. We've been installing and designing our own version for quite a few years. We're very confident with our technology. We are bringing it to market. It's available here now with our warm climate model. Cold climate will be soon. But if you're building a home and space is at a premium, and you're concerned about anything like venting or sound or anything that might inconvenience the customer, take a look at a split system. We could be a good option. And that's it.
Thanks, Carl. Really appreciate it. We've got a couple minutes questions.
All right.
Really excited about the Embertec. As folks are again unmuting, any information you can share on expected price point for when you come to market, or no details on that yet?
No details on that yet. We're somewhere between here and here on price. That'll be good.
Got it.
No, yeah, we'll be competitively priced. Keep in mind there's different types out there. Like the Sanco is a beautiful machine that uses high pressure components and CO2. So, I don't want to speak for them, but we expect to be below that because we're using refrigerant. We don't have to have that kind of pressure. But I have a feeling we'll probably be more than a tower, if you will. But we're more of a niche, I would say, at this point for the any split system, really.
Great. And what are your initial beachhead markets that you're going to be focused on? Just
Right
national,
now,
or
it's California is just massive for us. We have California chasing us, which as a salesman and for you salesmen on the phone, that's a nice feeling to have the fish chasing you. They're very interested. Like I said, we're doing some installs now for some of the largest contractors in California for PG&E and for SDG&E and all those guys. So if the pilots all go well, California's our target. But I can't leave out Maine. Maine is huge. I talk to the low-income folks at Maine, and when they say, "Hey, we have 60,000 mobile homes we have to take care of. Can you help us?" We have an option for them, and as soon as the cold weather product's ready, we'll probably start testing it in Maine and New York and Pennsylvania and other areas. And we even have interest in Nova Scotia, which is interesting. That was our first market with power strips.
Well, thank you so much, Carl. It looks like we are at time. Thanks for keeping it to within time. If you want to put your info in the chat, that would be great. So
Sure.
folks can reach out to you. Oh, it's there on the screen as well. I see it. Great. Well, we'll send the slides as a follow-up. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Elliot. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, everyone, for a fantastic phone call. And we will see you all in a couple months. So have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, presenters. Take care.
Thanks all.